Welcome to Mornings with Marvel, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. It is Thursday, October 9th, 2025, another day in paradise. Let me apologize to those of you who had not seen me yesterday. I awakened with a horrible headache. I don't get headaches naturally. And so there goes the fire engine. I don't get headaches naturally. So when I felt this one and I was like, all right, I'll take some medicine. I'll move. I couldn't move. And so it was kind of difficult for me yesterday. So I shut down, as I should have, right? And really spent a lot of time laying around trying to get myself together. I suspect that all the things that are happening to me in the last couple of days, those are a direct result of the thing that's happening today. It's my mother's birthday. And as many of you know who have been following me for God knows how long on air, my mother transitioned on April 8th, 2023. And so this is my first, second, third birthday that we've not had her here. And my sisters and I think they sensed it too. They called me the other night and we all talked for a long time. Um, I I I used to tell people all the time to treasure your parents because you never know when their last breath is going to be. But in the midst of my mother's transitioning, and I really chronicled it. I'm a writer, so I was writing. No one knew she was dying until I posted that she had died. But the way I was talking about being at her hospital bed with my sisters, she had 24-hour care. There was always someone in the hospital with her until she transitioned, until she said she wanted to come home, and we stayed in the house with her. I was the one that saw her take her last breath. In the middle of my writing about all of this, people began inboxing me saying that their mothers were horrific and began sharing stories about the things that they had experienced at the hands of their mother. And then I think it was Mr. Man Frisbee who called me and told me about this young lady who was a track star in Philadelphia, and her mother was jealous of her and murdered her. And so I no longer tell people stuff like that. I say, look, you know, find your healing wherever you can. If you have parents that are wonderful, and I'm not talking about parents that just make mistakes, because as parents we're all going to make mistakes. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about some people who are just horrific, who should just never have had children. I read Viola Davis's book through audiobook, and she talked about how her mother was beaten so horrifically by her father, and the mother was trying so hard to be okay within her own life. She kind of neglected her children, but Viola understood. Viola and her sisters understood, and they continued to love their mother. So wherever you are in the spectrum, right? Some folks have children really early in life and have still can't figure it out. Some folks have children and left them to wallow with other people to raise them, and then want to get all the accolades in the world about how wonderful they were as parents when they really weren't there. Some folks made horrible mistakes, oftentimes not intentionally, that impacted their children, just all the things. But for me, from my mother, the one that raised me, I learned a lot of things at her death, but I learned as she was dying some things too, that she was taking care of not just my sisters and I. There are four of us. She was taking care of her sister's children, helping them to kind of navigate through, and the other thing I want you to know, just because you have a good job and you have a decent salary, sometimes mothers make decisions about being with their husbands and leaving their children to wallow, and find their way. So there's so many stories. So I no longer tell people, these are folks that give you life. They gave birth to you for one reason or another. But I now understand the stories. Yesterday, while I was laying still, I listened to Cecily Tyson's book. Oh my God, it made Viola Davis's memoir look like nothing. Thank you, Carlene Bowen, for this. It was just amazing, just really, really good. And so I learned even more there, how she fell in love with Miles Davis. And even though Miles Davis was out there doing everything, he was beating her, he was sleeping with other women, he was sleeping with at least one man that she knew of. He was doing all the things. Like, she brought him back from life from a Chinese doctor who said he only had 2 or 3 weeks to live. And she was like, can you just help me? And he lived another 10, 15 years because she was trying to help him, pumping up with all these herbs and stuff. So the bottom line is life, right? And while I horribly miss my mother. I really, really do. I'm talking and I'm not crying yet. While I horribly miss my mother, I recognize the things that she put into my sisters and I, and my cousins and other people's children, that gave us a leg up so that we could be clear, cognitive thinking people moving forward. So my morning motivation today is this. As an adult, I realized I was raised with a certain amount of privilege that started with a two-parent household, and those privileges shaped who I became as a direct result. What I am most grateful for that um, what I am most grateful that my parents taught me, us, was to never look down on others, to always lend a hand to lift, and to never see people with less means as expendable. I never understood black folks who behaved as elitists in a world where all the money, etc., reminds us we are still a part of the lower caste, and it roils my spirit that they go further to discard others for sport to show another culture they're above these Negroes. God sits high and sees everything, and when we least expect it, we will reap bountifully what we have sown in discord to learn the lessons that will bear fruit on that pompous vine. Wine or vinegar, you choose. Good morning. Well, there it is. It's the Love is Thursday. Um, I felt like I had to talk about that because I see, I see now. What is his name? Van. Somebody. Someone sent that to me yesterday. That he went into an event and said that he was apologizing for Black people who did not treat Jewish people well. And we're looking, and I listened to that thing. He took on the Michael Harriet from the Root. I know the Griot. He's at the Griot now, and said that he was lying and that people were lying, and that, and you know, when you put things in writing, and when you're in a room and things are being recorded, you better mean what you say and say what you mean, right? So there was that, and then it's all the things. There's the Stephen A. Smith who's out here saying all kinds of crazy things. I'm like, if you don't have anything good to say nothing at all, right? But to come against the very people that you were born and raised amongst, when you are someone of color, you grew up in a certain way. You know this. No one has to tell you anything else. And between Viola Davis and Cicely Tyson, they were making pennies on the dollar. She was in her 70s, 80s before she really started making really good money. And that was because of Tyler Perry, who understood that while she was in serious roles and was getting Oscar nominations and Emmys, etc., she wasn't being paid well. Same thing for Viola Davis. It was Shonda Rhimes who brought her on to How to Get Away with Murder, where she started getting paid for what she needed to get paid. And so let's stop acting like we've so arrived and we're above everybody else and we can't figure it out, right? That all of a sudden we have arrived. A lot is shifting and changing. There's a lot that I need to talk to you about before Sharice Syfax comes on. But just remember, the very people that you turn your nose around on are the people that you're going to need as you move along the line, okay? So there we go. There was something. Jesus, there's so much going on. And I'm kind of glad I missed it all yesterday because I'm telling you, when I tell you Marvel was, woohoo, let me look this one up and pull it off first. This one stuck in my craw because I saw it around 3:00 this morning. One of my Facebook friends posted that she was trying to get someone who was unhoused into a space, and nobody was. She was being domestic violence, a victim. She called the domestic violence hotline here in Philadelphia. Nobody answered. She waited 20 minutes. She kept calling. She called another organization. They told her to call the domestic violence hotline. Nobody answered. And what they're saying is there are these services in Philadelphia that are just not working or doing things that are just beyond the pale. So early in July, Raphael Colon walked into a resource center. This is written by NBC 10 News. Looking for help to get a new ID and left with an opportunity to leave Philadelphia. I bumped into somebody today that God brought him to me, Colon says. I was fortunate enough to meet him and send me on my way to Florida. Colon was born and raised in West Kensington. He says he struggles with substance use disorder and has been in and out of jail. He told us he was ready for all of that to change. An opportunity came when he met an outreach worker at the resource center who offered him a one-way ticket to Florida on a bus leaving that afternoon. I've never been down there, and I'm just going down there on a miracle, to be honest with you, on a wish, he said. Colin was able to board that bus through Stranded Travelers Assistance. It's a program run by Philadelphia's Office of Homeless Services. The city buys a one-way bus ticket to places all over the country for people like Colin who are unhoused in Philadelphia. From July 21st to May 2025, Stranded Traveler Assistance funded 875 trips out of Philadelphia to 276 U.S. cities and towns. From Harrisburg to Los Angeles, these trips spanned the country. The longest journey, according to routing software, was San Jose, California. The ride estimated to cover 2,911 miles and require 40 hours of travel. But not all travelers strayed so far from Philadelphia. Most of the popular destinations areas to travel on the East Coast, especially around Philadelphia. But here are some that are somewhere in between. Across the country, and many half of the stranded travelers trips funded from July were 700 were within breathe Andrea were within 728 miles of Philadelphia. The remaining half traveled farther distances. It is unusual that the city, like Philadelphia, is standing up its own organization to do this, Colhane says. The NBC 10 investigators reviewed records for the program. In total, Philly taxpayers have spent more than $270,000 since July of 2021. Since then, more than 1,000 people have traveled across the state and country, funded by the city of Philadelphia. Bruce Johnson, the Assistant Deputy Director for the Office of Homeless Services, who oversees the Stranded Traveler Assistance, says the city measures the program's success by the number of participants. And so what they're saying is Philadelphia is just giving folks a one-way ticket out of the city who are unhoused. Don't care where they're going, and just allow them to get on the bus. And then Johnson says no program is a fail-safe program. It's an interesting. So there's been conversations on the social media about this and why is this happening? Why are we even here? And then the woman who was talking about Kendra, what's her name? I believe her first name is Kendra, from Yale, Philadelphia. She was so angry because here was this person who was absolutely in a domestic violence situation. She had enough money to get her in a hotel the night before and last night, and she has nowhere to go, and there was no one helping her. No one from the domestic violence hotline has called her at all. And Roar, women against rape, are saying that they don't get help from the city either, that the phone lines just ring and ring and ring. So they're trying to figure it out. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Jasenia says women against abuse is in a $4 million deficit. Oh my God, I didn't talk much yesterday, and this happens to me. When I don't talk much, when I do talk, I start to lose my voice. Van Jones, yes, Lord Jesus. Morning, Marguerite, I see you. Morning, Bobby. Thank you, darling. Good morning. Morning, Andrea, Tiffany. I see all of you. You're all here. Forgive me for yesterday. I just did not feel well at all. Morning, Fee. Wow. I see all of you. I see you. You're all here. God bless your little hearts. Listen to my voice. I barely spoke yesterday. Barely. I just slept. And so my voice is going to continue to do this. I hope I keep feeling good too, as Dr. Jana. Thank you. I see you. So Bobby says, so they're passing the book. That's the intimation. I also got a bunch of messages yesterday from folks who sent me the Philadelphia Inquirer article about the man that Councilmember Isaiah Thomas accused of accosting him, and the ripple effect was that he's been departed. He's separated now from the city of Philadelphia. They say he's no longer with the city. I don't know where he is now, but the mayor and group figured out that was not the place for him. So Jasenia, she says it's sad some of the people have returned back to Philadelphia because they don't like where they're going. Usually they send them back to a place with family, but that's not what's happening, right? And so folks are asking, if you send them back to family, that's one thing, but if you're sending them to someplace else other than family, chances are they're going to come back. Viola, thank you, Viola, my darling. Andrea says, are the domestic violence assistance spaces affected because they're state funded and we don't have a budget? That's the question to ask. But if that's the case, then the city needs to put up something that says this is what's happening. But it's a 24-hour hotline that's not being answered at all. And so people are drawing attention to it. All right. Let me go over here because your president. Um The president is seeking to have the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Chicago arrested for disobeying him. Let me read that again. Let me say that again. President of the United States is seeking to have the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois arrested for ignoring him, for not following his orders. This was written by Black Information News. Black Information Network News. President Donald Trump has publicly called for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson to be arrested amid his federal crackdown on the city. On Wednesday, October 8th, Trump said Pritzker and Johnson, who have been resisting the president's deployment of federal forces, should be jailed for failing to protect ICE, per The Hill. Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect U.S. immigration and customs enforcement officers, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Governor Pritzker also. Trump's comments came after his administration launched Operation Midway Blitz last month, targeting undocumented immigrants in the Chicago area. The operation has led to clashes between protesters, federal agents, and even local police, particularly outside of an ICE facility in Broadview, a suburb of Chicago. What do you think about that? Do you think that should be a thing? Do you think the president of the United States should be okay with having the governor of a state and the mayor of a city arrested? Do you think that should be a thing? Um, Here comes the other part. Lord, I hope you all are ready. White House officials have held increasingly serious discussions in recent days about President Donald Trump invoking the Insurrection Act, a rarely used 19th century law that gives the president the power to deploy active duty troops inside the United States for law enforcement purposes. 5 people with knowledge of the talks told NBC News. The discussions come as Trump has sought to deploy National Guard troops in several major cities, including Los Angeles, Chicago, and Portland, Oregon, saying they're needed to reduce crime and protect immigration and customs enforcement officials from protesters. Critics have said the Trump administration is exaggerating issues in those cities, written by NBC Philadelphia. What are your thoughts? The United States top Middle East advisor, the Prime Minister of Qatar, and other senior officials joined the third day of peace talks between Israel and Hamas at an Egyptian resort on Wednesday, a sign that negotiators aim to dive deeply into the toughest issues of an American plan to end the war in Gaza. Hamas says it's seeking firm guarantees from mediators that Israel won't resume its military campaign in the Palestinian territory after the militant group releases all the remaining hostages. All sides have expressed optimism for a deal to end the 2-year war that has left tens of thousands of Palestinians. Did you hear what I said? Tens of thousands of Palestinians dead and most of the Gaza Strip destroyed. But key parts of the peace plan still haven't been agreed to, including a requirement that Hamas disarm, the timing and extent of an Israeli troop withdrawal from Gaza, and the creation of an intentional body to run the territory after Hamas steps down. That's 6 ABC News. Philadelphia announces plans to fight illegal trash dumping in North Philadelphia neighborhoods. How about every neighborhood? In an effort to curb illegal dumping in Philadelphia, the city is partnering with a local youth organization and a recycling center to take out the trash that should have never been there. North 10, a community group in the Hunting Park East Tioga neighborhood, and Richard S. Burns and Company, a local recycling business, are joining forces to take care of 5 illegal dumping hotspots, the 3 parties announced in a news conference on Wednesday. So, and I have to ask, because I ask, if we're taking out the illegal dumping spots, if we're removing the trash, what stops them from bringing the trash back? Just a question. And so, do we keep doing this? um, and the state budget is 100 days past when it's supposed to have been ratified. So people are trying to figure out what's happening. Crazy. Um, Laverne says yesterday was a signal of the official season change for me. Allergies kicked in. Oh, let me tell you. Um, Happy birthday to your Nana, Viola. Yeah, it's probably allergies. See my eye tearing. Andrea says also, the SEPTA 1 year agreement is almost up, and they're talking again about the strike. This place makes me tired. Makes me tired too, Andrea. And Bobby says dumping that's been going on for years. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, it must be the allergies because my eye is tearing. Craziness. Good morning,
But
Mama.
we crying this morning? Oh, Jesus, I'm not prepared.
No, I'm talking about eye tearing, so it's got to be my allergies. This is so crazy. How are you, sweetie pie?
I am well. How are you? Good morning,
Mm,
everyone.
good morning. I wasn't on yesterday because I woke up with a massive headache.
Okay.
Girl,
Oh,
it was terrible.
okay.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
this
Well, I
morning,
was
because
up
I didn't,
early yesterday, so
yeah,
I didn't know I didn't get my notification. Usually, I get my
yeah,
notification.
right. You will get your notification, but because I wasn't on, you didn't get it. And so my phone was blowing up, but my head, I had to be in a dark space for hours,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
for sure.
So good morning. This is Cherise Syfax for those of you who are joining me for the first time. She's the lover and mother and agent of change. We talk
Okay.
about Black love. Girl, I don't even know what to talk about this morning. There's so much craziness going on. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, agreed. But I'm not. I'm just trying to go. I don't know. I'm not sure if anyone saw our 20 when we were on 2020. It was the 24 months that changed the world. And
Uh-huh.
Deborah Roberts asked me, what would you tell someone who's going through a dark time? And I said, lean into the light. And that is the only thing that's keeping some people sane, I'm sure, is just leaning into the light, and let's lean into the things that are positive. So, for us right now, next year is going to be a really big year in Philadelphia between FIFA, the 2026, the year 250, just all the things. And so we're just really gearing up and excited and preparing ourselves, for those things, because right now it's challenging. So, it's just like what are the things in our lives where we can lean into the light?
Yeah.
Um, and that's just kind of where I'm saying, just leaning into the light, because there is so much going on that is tough for people. That is really, really tough for people. But what I do, like I've been, like my prayer call is on Thursday mornings at 6. And just being in spaces where people are, because ultimately, no matter kind of how you feel about religion, the church has historically for our people has been our place of sanctuary.
Refuge.
It's been our
Mm-hmm.
place of refuge. It's been the place that we organize. We were at a meeting last night
Mm-hmm.
up in Jersey City,
Mm-hmm.
organizing around this gubernatorial race and organizing around like some of the things that we'd like to see. We've been in churches in Philadelphia, again, like organizing and having conversations about, where we want to be. And one thing I do love, and it's something that, I would say all the time, is that people are saying we have to be intentional about how we spend our money. We cannot spend our money with people who are trying to kill us. We cannot spend our money with people who don't care or who align with like policies and procedures and things like that that don't have our best interests at heart. So those are the things that, just leaning into people and individuals and places that support and are similar to our mindset, so that we are working together and thinking about, how do we navigate these times.
Right.
um and so, those are the things.
Can
And
you
I will say,
imagine though
gold is on a
being in a
tear. Gold is on
can
a
you
tear, y'all. I'm gonna keep on saying that.
David said, was there a fire at Booker's in the outside bar?
No, the wine guarding that store had a fire.
Oh, Lord.
It's been a couple weeks now, maybe even a month now. But yeah, the
Okay.
one garden.
So, speaking of leaning into the light, I am reading, well, I just finished reading it, audiobook, uh, Cecily Tyson, talking about her life. She was 96. She died shortly thereafter. It was crazy. But she
Yeah.
said the lady had a lot going on. And one of the things she talked about was Miles Davis.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And she went into great detail about how they met, how she just ignored him. She knew about his philandering ways. He was married to somebody else at the time. She got into a relationship with him. He was cheating, blah, 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 blah. And the woman he was cheating with came and knocked on their door, Black Jesus. And she got her stuff and she left. He then married that woman. That marriage lasted for a year. And then he came back and was trying to find her, trying to talk to her. And every time he reached out to her, she had to like lift him out of his vomit, out of on the street, trying to get him to where he was, etc., etc. And then he kept asking her to marry him, kept asking her. And Cherie, she said yes. She said her mother, who had just died, she went to borrow her mother's wedding ring and she could not find the mother's wedding ring anywhere. She said she also has she has ESP. So she's given several instances where she saw things before they happened, right?
Mm.
And she knew her mother would not have agreed to the marriage. And she said, they got married in Bill Cosby's house up in Massachusetts, and there were stunned people in the room who didn't know they were getting married. And of course, it leaked out into the news because somebody in the room had to go talk. And she said for the first few months, they were going back and forth. She saved his life from a Chinese man who said he was 2 weeks away from dying, gave him all these herbs to boil and to drink. I mean, he literally tore his body up, right? She brings him back to life, to health with the stuff. He then picks up his horn again and began playing, right? Well, he went back to his old habits. She said it was so bad, he started to hit her. He started to grab her and shake her and push her. And she said he was so jealous if she was out because she's a Hollywood actress and talking to anybody, he would accost them, like all kinds of crazy things he did. She finally left him and filed for divorce and then heard that he was sick as a dog. He had AIDS. The rumor had been going out that he was sleeping with his hairdresser, a male, and a bunch of other women. And he told her, he said, I'd like you to come back to me, but we can't have sex anymore. She believed that he did have AIDS and that this was happening. But she said, for everybody who told her she was crazy for marrying this man, she said there was something about him, despite everything that happened to them, with him, that he was her one true love.
Mm. Oh, I gotta read that.
Explain that to me. Explain that to me. Because I'm quick to give you back a T-shirt and tell you thank you for the part you played in my church. It just goes to show we have to be very mindful when we don't understand why people feel the way they do about certain people, even though we can see the forest for the trees and see that they're terrible and they're doing all these things. We have to be very mindful not to come from a place of judgment because we just don't know. So my question is there an unhealed part of her that allowed that? And she did write about it. She alluded to it to her father. She said her father was cheating on her mother. She thought she could make Miles better than her father was with her mother. So it goes back to what you and I have said over and again. If your childhood is janked, if you don't do the space, the work to healing, then you find yourself back in the same situation with someone else.
And the interesting thing about when we talk about our childhoods, if there's, so we all have a certain level of something in our childhoods. What that is, who knows? Um, some people seem to be fine and go on into the world and contribute and are okay. Some people seem to not be able to get out of it. And, what about that, makes you not do some things. So I'd like to think about more of like just who you are as an individual and not necessarily contributing to any other factors, because you can have one person who grew up in a drug infested household and they go on to be Rhodes Scholars, and you can have somebody
Yes.
is in prison and they can't ever seem to get get themselves together. And so that's why, to your point, it always goes back to healing ourselves. Yes, we can recognize points along the way that may have been impactful to kind of who we are, but at the end of the day, we've got to heal ourselves. think of how many Oprah Winfreys are out there that never realized who they were because they chose to let that molestation or
Yep.
that 14-year-old pregnancy or whatever the things are disrupt, and stay within them where they weren't able to move forward. Whereas
Right.
you had this person who's like grew up impoverished and absent mother and had a child and all the things and is the first black, female billionaire, first
Right.
black billionaire female wise.
Right.
So, it's healing ourselves kind of no matter what the reason, what's at the root. Sometimes I do think we have to recognize that, but really it is healing ourselves no matter what the situations are, because we can live in lives that seem to be almost perfect, and it's
Right.
still, it's still something. I have that conversation with my children.
Yeah.
There's moments that they ask me for something and I just have conversations. I'm like, hey, you live in California, it's really expensive there. I really want you to reconsider, moving here. We can definitely help you. And they'll all of a sudden call my girlfriends and give all their mother grievances. And my girlfriends are like, look, we were there. Your mom was at everything and
Yes.
everything at everything. You went to private schools, you went to tutors, you went to, ballet and basketball and track, and she didn't miss a meet. And she, so you can
Wait,
choose.
they were calling your friends to complain about you?
Oh no, they because they were all there. So, and so to me, I'm like, I gave you 150%. I don't know why you're choosing at this point. But you got to figure. You got to figure that out. You got to figure that out. We're not going to do my father wasn't here, because I put all kinds of great male figures in your lives. So
Yes,
you
yes.
got to figure that out. Because they're not, I'm not going to say everybody's childhood is so impactful to them that they can't move on in life. Sometimes people, you don't want to hear the real truth. You don't want to hear the real truth. And so you want to like associate it with some traumatic experience in your childhood. I don't know of any. So you tell me what traumatic experience you had. Oh, you
Yeah.
worked too much. Okay, that's why you can ask me for this today, because I worked really, really hard.
Right.
So I, just kind of back to, and Cicely Tyson is specific, and I'm sure she did have childhood traumatic experiences that kept her in certain things. But if she just kind of worked on herself, no matter what, then she would
Yeah.
have understood her value, her who
Yeah.
she was, and that she
Yeah.
didn't need to try to change somebody else.
Yeah.
We as women sometimes in our
And we
DNA
feel like we can fix
feel
somebody
like we gotta
and
fix
make them better
somebody.
people.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're trying to do that selfishly because we want them to fit this thing that we have, versus saying that's not it. I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
move on to the next person who may give me an opportunity to be the person that I need.
Hmm. She
Because you can't tell me some drug infested philanderer, like, you just can't tell me that you're trying to make that fit. And let me say this, I'm sure Miles Davis was charismatic. I know he
oh
was, because
honey.
because
Yes,
he was
he
not
was.
he was not a looker, but he had all those women.
Yes,
So
he
it
was.
is something about artists and all them and that are charismatic and magnetic. But
Go
at the
back
end
to
of
the
the
go
day,
back to the he was not a looker. That was his demons.
it
People
absolutely was.
treated him horribly, say he was a darky, that he was ugly, that he and that he should do all he wasn't anything. And even though he had attained a certain level of fame, all of that from his childhood kept haunting him, right?
Hmm.
He was dark skinned, he just wasn't this, he wasn't that. She came from parents from the Caribbean, and she had her one and only child early. I think she was like 14 or 15, which if you've met a Caribbean mother child, that is like death on a stick. So her mother was just like, you're never going to amount to anything. And she said one of the things she wanted to do was to make sure that her mother say, I am proud of you. And she
Hmm.
was in her seventh, just before her mother died, when her mother said, look at you, you're on the main stage. I am so proud of you. She started out as a secretary who loved fashion, and someone saw her on the street and she had to learn how to become an actress. And nothing comes without hard work. We get that. But her own demons coupled with his demons, my
Hmm.
God.
So then they were just more toxic together.
Oh my gosh.
Or they were
And
bonding in their trauma, and they had some similar, because she was very dark,
yes.
and for those
Yes.
times that was not,
Even at those times, it's still happening, Sherry.
well, it still does happen,
Still.
but it definitely was much more
Yes.
prevalent, much
Yes.
more
Yes.
prevalent,
Yeah.
much more prevalent.
Mhm. Mm.
So yeah, that's
So
interesting.
it's hard to do your work. We all at some point, and I'm telling you this, we all at some point feel like our parents just didn't do the right things. I told you I was holding my mother hostage until I was 35. You didn't like me. You treat everybody else different from me. Blah blah
Right.
blah 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 blah. And I literally had to go to leadership cohorts training. And I called my mother and I said, I've been holding you hostage for years in my head and my heart, and please forgive me. And she started to cry. And there began. I had 24 years with my mother where we just had a wonderful relationship.
Yeah,
So no matter how much you do as a parent,
mhm.
girl, they're coming for you.
They
It
still
was my oldest son a few months ago. I was like, boy, I can make other children. I will manufacture more eggs.
you know, at this age,
Yeah,
at 55,
yeah,
I tell them the mistakes that you make today are yours. You are not you. I gave them both a conversation when they left for college. I said,
yeah.
hey, you haven't had to worry about anything. My children don't have school debt. They went to school on scholarships, all things, right? I said, if you end up on a pole or with a pipe in your mouth, I am not going to feel any
You
kind of
did
way.
not tell your
I am going
child
to
if
look
you
at
end up with a
myself in
pole
the
or a
mirror
pipe.
because I know I did the best that I
You
could.
did not
So,
say that.
yes, I did. They will tell you. Yes, I did. We had a whole long conversation before they went off to school. that that is your choice. You are making a choice. You haven't seen that.
Oh,
You don't know that. You know.
yeah.
You've been in Jack and Jill and the private schools and all the things to see and be around success and
So where
positivity,
do you think their
all
struggle
the
comes
things.
from? Where do you think their struggle comes from now? Because to your point, you put them in private school. They were in track. You made sure they had all they need to do. They did all the track. I read your book, Second Act. I read it. So you
Absolutely.
did all the things. So where do you think their angst is coming from now? Honestly,
Oh, I just really, well, and it's interesting because neither of them did. I said, don't come back to California when you finish college. Stay wherever, stay the course. And they both
why
came
did you
back
tell them that?
because it's expensive to live in California. It's very expensive to
Yeah.
live in California. If you're making $190,000, you are struggling in California. And so I just did not feel like that was a place to start a family at this stage. It's just not, unless you are working at Google or, HP or
Yeah.
something like that. If you're not in Silicon Valley, it's very, very challenging. You have teachers, and my children decided to go into education. They're in special education, but it's education nonetheless. You have teachers living in their cars in California because the salaries that they make, unless they're married, or whatever,
Right.
it's just not enough money. And so I think, so it's like they went back at the time my mother was alive. So I know my mother dying was really impactful, extremely impactful, because that was a big anchor of their support system. So they're there, and we have, we have family, we have community, but it's still not like if they were here and because now they have children. The partners that they selected, like y'all couldn't find nobody in accounting at college, so the partners that they've selected probably aren't the most, they're young and they're trying to navigate living in California too, so they're good partners, but they're just all trying to make it instead of saying, hey, I'll move. My youngest daughter, her partner, he does HVAC stuff. Tracy builds houses or knows people that builds houses. Come here. He can get them on a team. And we can build a house. We have a house that we could gift you, or we could, because what they pay and rent and all that, they could have houses here. They could have houses in New Jersey, they could have houses with yards. In
Right.
Philly, it's a little bit different. So, but they could still have houses that they're building equity in. And so I think right now it's just hard for them to kind of cut the cord, but it's just all about living expenses. Now, if they had chose, maybe other careers, but they're both very, very passionate about the work that they do. And I'm very proud of that. Very
Mhm.
proud of that. And we need good
Can't
people in
they
the
do
school system.
special ed somewhere else in another state? I mean,
Yes,
these states are begging for special ed
begging,
teachers.
begging,
Begging.
begging. I tell them that all the time. But comfort, right? Comfort. People are comfortable. They're comfortable. So their perception is Tracy and I are very, very busy, and we wouldn't be able to support them the way their village supports them. I'm like, no, I think you're it's overrated what you believe you get. You're comfortable, and it's okay just to say that. Sometimes we have to say we're comfortable in relationships. Sometimes we have to say we're comfortable in jobs. Sometimes we have to say we're comfortable in the way that we are moving, even though we're not completely satisfied, because comfort is a justification, because doing something different, people don't like change, as we know that. So yeah, to have to come here would be winters, cold winters. My oldest daughter went to University of Michigan, and I tell her, girl, you went to one of the best schools in the country. And in no way like that you should be trying to figure out navigating every job you've gotten. If it's a Michigan alumni, you have been pulled, selected, all the things, because that network is very, very strong. So lean into that. But I just think there's comfort now. They've had children, and they're just afraid to kind of make that leap. And and Tracy and I are busy, but if you live here, you live with us, or you live, then we can make the drop off and the pickup, because I can control my schedule myself. So when my grandbaby came for those 6 weeks, we were like clockwork, because I had figured it all out. How many days she needed to go to daycare, how many days we'd stay at home, the days that I already had something committed and Tracy had to keep her, the days that when we went to go see Beyonce and my bonus daughter kept her. Like, we were all good. We were invited to birthday parties, because we get invited to stuff, but we don't have kids to take, to go. People invite us out of courtesy. But if we had kids, and I also told them too, you get here and you make your own community. So wherever the children go to daycare or school, now you start making your community. If they're in after school activities, you make your community.
Right.
If you go to church, you make your community. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of excuses to stay comfortable.
Marguerite says, I told my son a similar thing. Piper the pole, Lord Jesus. Laverne says, I love your strength, Cherie. I did all the things and my son turned to drugs. 30. He will never be the same. Getting his mind right again has been hard. Keeping him 100% clean, he refuses. Alexander says, yeah.
My heart goes out to Laverne, because you do try hard, and no matter how hard you try in the home, those external forces sometimes can get people, and we've gotten so it's become so customary to blame everything and everybody,
Yes. Yeah.
and I'm sure, Laverne's son probably has blamed her or blamed something, or, and she's had to second guess and feel guilty. Hey, I'm not going to feel guilty. Like, because I intentionally was like, okay, I'm pregnant. Okay, I'm having these children, and this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. I'm going to give you all the exposure I can. I'm going to give you, the base foundation of the education that I can or can't afford. In my book, I say I've been with men, not like transactionally, but I've stayed in relationships with men that could help make sure that I was able to do the things that I needed to do for my children. So you got to figure it out. You do. You got to figure it out. Like, I'm here to help and be a support system, but I've given you very good tools to figure some things out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when they have the sympathy as well.
Yeah.
But, sometimes.
It is. I was listening to a group of young people my son's age, my oldest son's age, and they were like,
Your children are what? Because mine are 35 and 33. Your boys are what?
Mine are 32, 33, and 29.
Okay.
Right. So the 33-year-old, bunch of his friends came over, and one said, I don't understand our parents. We're not obligated to take care of you. We didn't ask to be born, blah, blah. And my son was looking at him going, boy, not in front of my mother. And it's true. You didn't ask to be born, but we did the best that we can. And so now that you're an adult, you don't feel like you have to take care of the people who took care of you. It's a really different thought process that these young people have. And so my son was like, listen, my mama is here. She takes good care of us. She's still making sure we're okay. I'm going to make sure my mother is okay at the end of the day. Right. But when we came to our crossroads, is because I asked him to do something. And I feel in retrospect, I was being overbearing in telling him to do something. He said, I'm grown. I done bought 2 houses. I got a wife, 3 dogs, and 3 babies. You can't talk to me like that. So that was my responsibility. And I had to go back and dig into my childhood about the way my father continues to talk to us, even though we're grown with children, grandchildren, all of that stuff. So I had to go back and do my work. Does that make sense?
Right. But you still have to be self-reflective. You don't necessarily, I would assume you're not necessarily blaming your father, but your self-reflection helped you get some context of where that was coming from and how that needs to be looked different. Because I've done it too. I make sure that I'm not being judgmental. My mother was very judgmental, and I didn't like that. And sometimes I have that trait, and so my children, their little guy friends have feel the children's fathers will feel like I don't like them. Well, one, I said, no, no, no. It's not that I don't like them. I said some of it is that they know maybe that they're not stepping up the way they need to be, and so they sense that their worthiness
You're not
is.
overly friendly.
No, I'm not. You know what? I am not even that. I am not. I'm not. I'm just.
And so they feel it.
No, I'm not. It's not that I'm not over friendly. It's just I ask people hard questions. To be my friend. I have really good friends. My girlfriends were here this weekend. Amazing friends, and it's because we can really have real hard conversations, and not everybody is used to that. And I just ask the hard conversations. Hey, so you have children. So what's the plan? Like, what is the plan? And if you come and ask me for something, then my conversation, and even Tracy's like, we're like, okay, so what's so-and-so doing? Because you're in a relationship, you're partnered with somebody.
Yep.
So help me understand kind of what you guys worked out first. And then, and then then we'll figure out how we can help out. And my children know, like, I've worked hard their whole lives. I married a person who works hard. Work ethic and stuff is really, really big for me. So if you need something and you're finding some holes, I'm trying to figure out why he's not working 2 shifts. Like I'm trying to figure out why, Ubers and all the Uber Eats and all that stuff, like why when you get off work, you're not turning on some app that gives you an opportunity to make a couple dollars
some more money
before you come home. So that's just like, because I'm a problem solver and I'm quick thinking and all that. And they haven't thought that, or they don't want to be super uncomfortable. Oh, I worked all night, so I'm tired. Well, no. I mean, we don't get to be tired and then asking somebody else for something.
Right.
We need to exhaust our options, and then, like, Mom, we did this, we did that, we did this, and then this here. Yes. And sometimes I'm going to give because I can, and I'm a parent, and I love my children. I'm
not because I'm obligated to, right?
But not because I'm obligated. And when we do ask, now I'm trying to make sure I understand what your financial situation is, so that I can help you get a better foundation there. Right. And so, because I'm not that way. I'm that way with my grandkids, but with my kids, I'm like, I was there. I know what I did. So I need you guys to rise to that occasion, to at least the baseline of what you know how to do. And so they get that. They get mad because they don't want to hear it, but they get it.
Yeah. Laverne said, it took a lot for me to get to your point. I took on the guilt, stress, and hell of it. I had to mourn my living son and create healthy boundaries. My God. Winetta says, I think all mothers have that special kid that just have it in for you. I told mine, you will not hold me hostage.
I know that's right. We are liberating.
That is so true.
Yes, we are liberating ourselves. We are liberating ourselves. And I'm like, just because you feel like you're a victim does not mean that I am your aggressor. Like, I'm not the reason why you calling me, asking me for something.
Marguerite says, my parents helped us a lot when we first got married. My husband resented them for that. Huh?
That happens too. That happens too. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of, there's ego, but then there's also some reality of, like, I'm not providing or I'm not performing. So this is why, instead of just embracing it, I would be so happy if somebody helped me. My grandparents were amazing. And so when I bought my house, they helped me buy my appliances. I loved and appreciated that. And I just don't even understand where resentment comes from. It's such honor. And you're so fortunate to have people that can do that for you. I always felt so blessed. My grandfather, the best man that ever walked the earth to me. That's just how I feel. So interesting that people feel that way. Yeah. But again, that's about them. And they got to figure themselves out. Why am I feeling like this?
David said, I like Cherie. She keeps it real. Alexandra says, not everyone is blessed to have both nurturing and providing parents. I was fortunate to get both from my grandparents. I'm one of those that feel no obligation to take care of my parents. See? Laverne says,
my daughter tells me all the time, Mommy, you just work so hard. I'm like, I worked hard so that I could set things up nicely for you guys. But I also, like, I want to make sure I have because you guys don't know if you're coming here. If something happens to me, I need to make sure that I got long-term in-home care. Like, I've got all that set up. So I'm not trying to be somebody else's, responsibility per se. I don't want you necessarily to have to disrupt your lives. One thing I am so thankful for both my parents, but especially my mother, that she died quickly. Because it would have been challenging for me to be on the East Coast and
And
have
then,
gone back and forth to care for her. So, and my prayer has always thanked God for just letting it be quick. Both of them. My father died of pulmonary embolism,
ooh,
and my mother died pretty quickly after we got her, that her cancer had metastasized, and she was, gone before I was married. Because I look at, my daughter had a child, and we were going back and forth every 6 to 8 weeks. I couldn't imagine if my mom was sick and we would have had, it just would have been challenging. So I know it sounds morbid, but the reality as an only child is
yeah.
that I am just so appreciative that
You
was not my.
you said something that struck me. You said your daughter had a baby and you were going back and forth every 6 to 8 weeks. When my son and his wife gave birth to their twins, I stayed with them for 8 weeks. I left while I was there. He was like, look, I know we're not going to do this. I'm going to have to sell this house. And I'm coming closer. They were looking at houses. I got back to Pennsylvania and them suckers were here 3 weeks later. The house was stole. They packed up the dogs. They packed up the twins. And they're closer to me where I can go see them all the time,
Yeah,
which is really, really good.
and I would.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
wish my children would do that. I wish my children would
yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Because it does make a difference.
I know it does. I know it
Makes a
does.
difference.
That's a blessing. So, count yourself blessed. Like that is a blessing.
Yeah,
I
but I
wish.
didn't even have to ask him. He was just like, he was like, we don't have enough support here. I have twins. How am I going to make it? I'm coming back,
Mhm.
and we're so happy, all of
Yes.
us, to make
Yes.
that they're here and to support them.
And my granddaughter who was here, she always telling her, I want to go to Glammy's house because it was wonderful here. It was wonderful. She did all the things.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I even think about like their quality of life. I mean, my children are excellent parents. That is one thing. They
yeah,
are excellent parents. They had a really
mm,
good example. So they are
yeah,
very good. And
yeah,
the things that they didn't like, I'm sure that they're incorporating in their parenting. But
yeah,
but ultimately, she didn't get to do all the things that we did. And her mom is tired and all the stuff. And so she is like on a petition. If she knew how to have a petition signed by people to be like, I want to go to my grandmother's house.
How old is she now?
She would. She's 4.
Oh yes, oh yes, because mine are 3. The twins are 3, and they're grandma. Come on, grandma.
No,
Yes,
and that's with
yes,
community. So like if they were here, I'd be like more Andrea, let's get the kids together. Like because
yes. Let's
that's
go to
what
the pumpkin patch. Let's
right.
go.
That's
Yes.
what community does, right? But
Yep.
I don't have my grandkids, so I'm not saying Andrea, let's get the kids together. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
would because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what and how you build community, and that's what we would be doing. And so that's what I keep trying to
Mhm.
tell her. So you guys pray, say a prayer that my
Oh,
baby's
we
coming.
will. We will pray. We will
That would make
because
me
I
so happy.
because I get it. I absolutely get it.
And we talk
Andrea
about
says caring for my huh?
those financial pieces. Like if they lived here, give them 6 months to live here so they don't have to, they can
Yeah,
figure out some things and save and navigate. I mean,
yeah,
we'd be going crazy because we're used to being here by ourselves, but we got a
right,
nice size house. And
right.
somebody we can do that and we can extend that. And I've
Mhm.
become so much more open to that.
Yeah,
So yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
thank
It,
you
it,
guys
it
for
it's
listening to my
it's
rant.
it's interesting, and this is why we always say be careful who you have children with because it makes a difference long term too, right? My
And be careful
oldest
who you marry because my husband could
child,
be one to be like, no, I don't even have a
child.
clue about. But he had them grandkids, those kids. So because we've had those children since we've been married, and they are
Right.
his, and
Yes.
he makes no differences. And he's
Yeah.
like, I want them to come here. We looked at a
Yeah.
house the other day in foreclosure that he's thinking about remodeling. He's like, one of them could be right here, and that's how he thinks. And
Mhm.
so it's like, on that side, I was blessed. So, but
Yeah.
if they come here, I would be a very happy person. And I'm
Yeah.
happy already, but I'd be even
Yeah.
happier.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. I get it. Last night, my son called me to show me that he had a yellow watermelon that came out of his garden, and he's FaceTiming me and my grandchildren. Grandma, move. Mwah! I got so many kisses. My son was like, I'm trying to talk to my mother. They're like, well, nah, she's our grandmother, right? And
Yeah.
so this is the beautiful thing about having them so close by. Andrea says, caring for my parents isn't something I have to do. It's what I get to do, a privilege, not an obligation.
Oh,
So
absolutely. It would have been a privilege for me to take care of my parents, but I recognize the reality of me living in Philadelphia and my mother being in California, it
Yeah.
was, during the pandemic and me being newly married. It would have absolutely been a privilege. My mother was amazing and I am who I am because of who she is. But I also have reality of trying to get on a plane, a 6 hour flight, however often,
Child, back and
or
forth.
or being away from my husband for however long, or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's just that's just my reality,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
absolutely I still feel blessed that they
Yeah.
transitioned quickly because I
Yeah.
understand what my personal challenges are,
Yeah, you're right
or would
because
it
when my
or would have been because I worked too at that time. I had
child,
a
I gave up work
yeah,
for 6 weeks.
right, and you
Didn't see
but
my
and
husband for 6 weeks
yeah,
because I want to make sure, and my husband had to fly out to come to the.
yeah,
It was a mess. Child, my mother looked at
it
us
was.
and said,
And
"Yep,
you felt that it was, a privilege to make sure your mom was
yes."
taken care of in her
Mhm.
final years, but I think you'd not be honest to say that was not a challenging
Oh,
time.
it
And
was
so
challenging as hell.
yeah,
It was a
so
lot.
yeah,
It
I
was a
feel
lot.
no
Yeah.
thoughts about that feeling that I feel.
And I'm grateful that I had a husband who understood completely.
Absolutely.
He's like, "Don't worry about it."
And Tracy would have understood completely,
Yeah.
but a
Yeah.
newlywed, like it
Child.
still was tough, right? It would have been tough. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I and I say the things I say because I want people to feel empowered to say what they feel. Like because
Yeah.
we always want there's times when we want to make it seem like these bed of roses are there
Politically corrected, right? And be
and they're
politically
not
correct and
and
not, yeah.
it would have been hard for me to care for my mother
Yeah.
transitioning if she would have had a long extended transition
Yeah.
period. Just hard for me to watch that.
Yes, it
I'm
is
so
hard.
when I got to California, my mother waited for me to get there before she transitioned. She looked beautiful. I've seen my aunts, I've seen other people transition and just look nothing like they were
Mm.
before. I when I every once in a while she comes to me in my sleep and I would see her and just look beautiful. So I am comfortable with the way my process happened. Extremely
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah.
And give other people permission to do that and be that too.
Now, here's a difference between so many of us and others. I grew up understanding that when our parents get older, we take care of them. My
Mhm.
mother's sister right now is in, dementia, and there's a nurse living in their home, and they make sure she's. It's a challenge. People have to adjust their lives, etc., etc. And so I said to my husband, I said, "Boy, baby, I don't know what we're gonna
Yeah.
do." And so my prayer is that I leave here like that too.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
tell
want to be
everybody,
like that for
I
my
want me and
children.
Tracy to die like they did in the Notebook. I want to just be both be together and we just don't wake up.
Stop breathing. There you go. Stop
Because
breathing.
one, I don't
Yep.
want to live without him.
Yep.
I don't want to see him decline. I don't want
Yep.
him to have to take care of me because I took care of
Yep.
my grandparents. So yes, that was a privilege, but it was hard. My grandfather had gotten dementia, and he was acting very different than he was.
Mhm.
And then he transitioned, and then we took care. We brought my grandmother. We left had her leave Texas and come to California, so
Yes.
it would be easier for us to take care of her. But she was in a home. It was hard, and I was young and spry, and so but but yes, I
Yeah.
don't want my children to have to care for me in that way, and I
Yeah.
don't want to have to care for Tracy in that way, and I don't want Tracy to have to care for me in that way. I want us to go to bed one day and we just don't wake up.
How about
That's
that?
my wish. Will I get it? I don't know. But I want a long time. I don't want to have to think about that for like 25 years.
Yeah. Charmaine says, I live in my truth these days and have no apologies for it.
Absolutely.
This
And
was
we
this,
all
even
should.
though we started and I didn't know what we were going to talk about. This is this is ended differently. Now, listen, before we get off the air, the Philadelphia police family pleads for public's help in the missing woman, Kata Scott, are asking for the public's help in finding her, who was last seen in Chestnut Hill section of Philadelphia on Saturday. Captain John Craig, commanding officer of the Philadelphia Police Department's Northwest Detective Division, talked about finding Kata Scott at a press conference on Wednesday. She was reported missing on Sunday. Her mom said she last saw her as she left for work from the 8300 block of Rodney Street in Eastmount area at 9:45 p.m. She works the overnight shifts from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. At the Terrace at Chestnut Hill, an assisted living facility. She's 23 years old, 5 feet 6 inches and 120 pounds. They said she arrived at work in her car and left before her shift ended, with her coworkers seeing her shortly before she left work early. She didn't leave in her car and the phone is currently off. Jesus. We're going to send up a prayer for her.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of crazy things that happen, and somebody has to know where you are at all times. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I have been very transparent in saying that there are people in my family that knows if I move to the left or to the right, they can see it. They're tracking me, and they have to track
Yeah.
me because I'm constantly moving. In. My son called me and said, "Why are you over there? You don't live there." You know, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, "But you didn't tell me you were going there." So when I see you moving, I know that something is going on. Donette says, "I lost." So we have to pray. We pray that this woman is found safely. They said she didn't take her car. Her phone is currently off. It could be somebody, and many times it's somebody that they know too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got to go back and dig. I tell folks, if I'm missing and Mister was the last person that saw me, y'all go get Mister. Don't say Mister's cute and kind and came. They started laughing. My husband's like, everybody know I'm not harming you, so you're gonna be fine. Oh, Alexandra said it's reported that she was being harassed. By whom though? So we have to figure it out. No cameras where she worked. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. It's a lot. So let's pray. Um Danette says, I lost my father suddenly and now I'm watching my mother suffering with a disease. I hope to transition quickly.
Absolutely. Me
It's a
too.
lot. It's been a lot for a lot of us. So, my darling, we're gonna pray for your children that they get their kind of acts right together. Because, like we said, we put them in college. They graduated. They got these degrees. They gotta figure it out. They're gonna be all right.
They'll be, oh, that one thing they will be is all right because I am their mother and they do have the ability to figure some stuff out. So yeah, I'm not worried about them. Just pray that they come east. That's my word. That's my prayer.
How many grandchildren do you have out there with them?
There are three, and my youngest is having another one.
Mm.
So there will be four. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So all my
Wow.
little babies, and you know my girlfriend's parents, they just cling to them even when I come, except for the oldest. The oldest one is like, that's my glammy. But the younger ones, they cling to them because they're always
Yeah,
there with them, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And to your point, we have a fifth one coming. We have four. We have a fifth one coming, and that fifth one says he's leaving the state that he's in now to come back home, so that we can be a part of his baby's life, right, with his wife. So we're lucky that the children
Yes,
are coming closer.
yes, yes,
The
yes.
children are
I'm so
coming
happy
closer.
for you because I know what that feels like. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. And there's not a week that we miss seeing our grandchildren. Between the two of us, the four of them, we see them every single week,
And that's
right?
great. Yeah.
And so to your point, yeah, because parenting doesn't end, and doesn't end when your child gets growing, and grandparenting is a joy. So we
And
shouldn't sit around waiting for people to bring the grandchildren to us. We could go see the grandchildren. See,
yeah.
go make the effort to see them and talk to them and see how
Hmm.
they are, etc., etc. Um, Monica said, ladies, thank you for this conversation. I can't chime in, but Andrea, this is my blessed story with my mommy. Yes. For everybody who's have had a parent that has transitioned, know you're in my heart today because, baby, without
Yeah.
my feisty, spicy mother.
Girl, without my mother being like, "You gonna be excellent. You are going to be amazing. You were created in God's image." Hey, I know that's right. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah. So she put it all into you before she walked out of here. And you're putting
absolutely.
it all into your
And I'm
children.
putting all
Yeah.
into them.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
It's worth
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
All right, my darling. Thank you for another great episode of The
And
Love is
let me
Thing.
tell y'all, Andrea texted me this morning, talking about, "Are you available?" It's Thursday. What are
Well,
we
I
talking
don't make no assumptions. You could have been in West Africa somewhere.
about? And I would tell you that we all here every Thursday. You don't have to double check unless I tell you.
Oh, listen, Andrea talk about that's why we live 4 blocks away from my mama now. I
I know
know
that's
that.
right. I know that's
So you
right.
understand.
I
You
wish I
understand.
could. I
Listen,
wish I could. Trust me.
listen, listen. When my grandchildren see me come through the door, Grandma, come on, Grandma, we're going to read. Come on, Grandma, we're going. Oh my goodness, it's so nice. It is
Yeah.
so nice. So
Yeah.
yes, Andrea, you're rotten because you're 4 blocks away from your mama. I
Yeah.
don't want my children that close. I would never get to go anywhere. Mommy, the grandchildren are coming over. Too funny. Love you, my darling. I'll see you
Love
next
you
Thursday,
too.
God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Absolutely.
Oh,
See you
wait.
later.
Where can people find you?
Booker at 5021 Baltimore Avenue. Oh, we're ending our brunch time happy hour this week. So come in 10 to 12 if you want the discount on some of your favorites. We are partnering with the African American Museum. So I'll send some more information on that later, but they're doing the Ruth Carter exhibit
Oh,
November 1st. So So
Okay.
get ready to get tickets. I'll have a link for you next week.
Okay. Thank you, honey.
Yeah.
All
Yes, but
right.
if it's anything like the one that was in SCAD in Atlanta, it is going to be amazing. And Philadelphia will have Ruth Carter. So, and we'll be doing the reception. So,
I am grateful that you are all able to do all this partnership because it really makes a difference, right?
oh,
Continues to draw a light to where you guys are and what you're doing. All right, my darling. See you later. Bye
alrighty.
bye.
Take care.
All
Bye
right, bye
bye.
bye. This episode of Mornings with Mother is officially over. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. The allergies are kicking my behind. My headache is gone. It's my mama's birthday. Be kind to me. Ah, ooh, and Dennis says he's going again on October 24th. I'm lighting that place up. I don't see my invitation, sir. Okay, just saying. Bye, everybody. Bye bye.